You know, if Nintendo never brings The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker and The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess to the Nintendo Switch, I'd be incredibly confused and shocked. I mean, plenty of fans want it would make them a ton of money, and I would think it's easy to develop. I guess we'll see, guys. Hey guys, it's Rob here, and welcome back to the Robo Show, where we take the gaming news format that channels like Spawnwood or Arlo do, add a dash of animation and some cool editing on top to bring you your gaming news, leaks, and rumors in a fresh new way. If you're new here and want to be kept up on everything gaming, make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you enjoy the video and dislike if not. In this video, we are going to talk about some recent news about the Legend of Zelda ports that are rumored to come to the Nintendo Switch. This news may disappoint you guys on these titles, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel, so it's not all bad. We will also be talking about the Nintendo Switch becoming the best-selling console of all time, which would be insane. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, it helps the video out when you do, and if you want to help me reach my goal of 1,000 followers on Twitter, you can follow me at RoboRob93. Without further delay, let's talk about some Zelda stuff. So the Legend of Zelda ports, a topic that everyone just loves to talk about. Plenty of Nintendo leakers are coming out and saying yes, these do exist and Nintendo is holding them back. That was one of the key things that a lot of people talk about when they talk about the Zelda games. That Nintendo would wait for a spot to release these titles when they didn't have a game to put out. Now that Breath of the Wild 2 is delayed until spring of 2023, the chances of another Zelda game coming to Nintendo Switch like the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker or the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess or even smaller Zelda titles like the rumored Oracle remake is something that's in discussion right now when you talk about the Legend of Zelda ports replacing the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Because remember, Nintendo usually has a Zelda game every single year, so there still is a spot for a Zelda game to come. But are they really working on the Zelda ports is the question, specifically Twilight Princess, never mind Wind Waker HD. I'll talk about that game a little later in the video because it does have to do with this. For those who don't know, literally 2 days ago while I was talking about Zippo's Nintendo Switch leak and speculation about these games coming to the Nintendo Switch, it turns out the ones behind Twilight Princess HD on the Wii U are not working on the game according to their own words, and this is what they said. No, and look, we'd obviously love to do the Zelda Twilight Princess HD, but that hasn't been a priority for Nintendo, or at least not in the conversations that they've had with us. Now keep in mind, that sentence right there, or at least not in the conversations they've had with us, is very important. The way it works with our friends over here is that we'll jump at the opportunity when we can work on one of their titles. Would you be interested in considering bringing Skyward Sword on the Switch? To which we answer, yes, of course. And then we enter into the conversations with Nintendo around what that might look like. Eventually, we get it underway. So it's similar in a lot of sense in terms of how Twilight Princess on the Wii U came to fruition. Now, for those who don't know, Tantalus was responsible for bringing the HD version of Twilight Princess during the Wii U's time. So naturally, they would get them to do the Switch version, right? Well, maybe. Because there's a bunch of other studios that are fully capable of bringing The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and even Wind Waker and other games to the Nintendo Switch. I mean, we've seen it with plenty of games so far. Not just Nintendo IPs, third-party games too, and indie games as well. The only thing this quote says is that Nintendo hasn't asked them to do it. Not that it isn't happening, or they haven't asked anyone else to put it on the Nintendo Switch, it's just they haven't asked Tantalus to. I mean, perhaps they're getting someone else for the HD version of Twilight Princess, or not, you know, that's always a possibility too. We just don't know, and that is the one light of hope for you guys for the Twilight Princess. Another light of hope is that this is specifically for the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, not any other Zelda games like Wind Waker or the Oracle remakes or any of the other games that could receive a remaster or even a remake. There are still other games that could happen. I mean, heck, Minish Cap got a trademark renewal, so that's another game that could happen. Spirit Tracks, I'm not gonna say Spirit Trackers again, I messed up last time, you guys told me that in the comment section, but that's another one that also had a trademark renewal and they could do something with that on the Nintendo Switch. So it's not all doom and gloom for this. Unless you wanted Tentalus to do the HD remake for the Nintendo Switch, then I guess this is bad news for you. Now what kinda adds to this is that Nintendo leaker Zippo also said that yes, these games do exist and they're already ready to be put out. Video in the top right corner if you're interested. Which, assuming that is true and not fake, I would assume that Nintendo would not want that surprise to be ruined, especially with Breath of the Wild 2 being delayed. So we'll see around the June Nintendo Direct and see what happens. But keep in mind that there is always an entire possibility that they just aren't working on it and it's not gonna come. Now if you're not interested in any Nintendo Switch Switch numbers and what records it could break, click the top right corner for some GBA goodness, and that may be coming to the Nintendo Switch online service. And moving on, let's talk about something huge, something big, the Nintendo Switch being the best-selling console of all time. So currently the Nintendo Switch has outsold the PS4 in sales in the US, which is just insane. Plenty of games like Metroid Dread have seen record sales, and overall the Switch is selling incredibly well, especially for its fourth and I think fifth year? It's either the fourth or fifth year, but it's been on the market for a while. And it's not stopping anytime soon. It's doing crazy numbers right now, and games like Breath of the Wild 2, I don't know why it says Breath of the Wild 3, which it'll be interesting if Nintendo does make that, but Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4, and other games like the rumored Zelda games are not even out yet. I mean, we have Bayonetta 3, we still have Xenoblade 3, we have so many big games. The new Mario sports game. So all of these are gonna increase the sales even more, especially games that we just don't know about. And the reason why this is important is because it would increase the sales even more. So much so that video game analysis firm Ampere, I think that's how you say it, says that the Nintendo Switch by 2024, so pretty close right now, in 2 years, the Switch will be the best-selling console of all time, beating the PS2. And these two actually have a couple things in common. This is what he said. Ampere is currently forecasting the next-gen Nintendo Switch device to release in 2024. By the end of the year, it is predicted to have sold through 146 million units, meaning it has the potential to become the best-selling console of all time by the end of its lifetime, selling over 158 million units and overtaking the PlayStation 2. Now, the PS2 sold incredibly well back then when it was released. Part of the reason why it sold so well is that it was a DVD player. DVD players were pretty expensive back when the PS2 came out. I mean, why buy an expensive DVD player when you can just buy a PS2 and have a DVD player already, and also maybe something for the kids? Or yourself if grown-ups were playing games back then. I don't know, I was a kid back then. Not only that, but the game had a massive library with a ton of fantastic games to play. Everyone had something to play, they had a whole bunch of genres. Does that sound familiar? The PS2 was not the most powerful console at the time as well. That's another thing you have to also consider. Now, what system does this sound like? This sounds like the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch is constantly getting games, it's constantly having something to play for pretty much everyone. Its library is growing and growing and growing over the years, and it has a ton of great titles for everyone. Animal Crossing, Mario Odyssey, Splatoon, Smash Bros, and so on. It just has everything for everyone. It's an everyone console, if that makes sense to you guys. In fact, Nintendo is doing the exact opposite of what they had going on during the Wii U's era. You also have to consider that people own multiple Nintendo Switches, and there are multiple versions of the Switch as well. Nintendo Switch OLED, Nintendo Switch Lite, and the original Nintendo Switch. These also vary in price as well, so people who maybe want the Nintendo Switch experience but don't want to spend $300 can get a Nintendo Switch Lite at $200 or even use less than that. So they're more willing to buy that, especially with Nintendo bringing all these games and having constant content to look forward to. If you look at what Xbox is doing and not having a lot to look forward to other than Game Pass, and I'm talking specifically exclusives, that's a bad thing. If the Nintendo were to do that, which they did that during the Wii U era, well, we would have another Wii U. Instead, we have a very successful console with a lot of stuff to play, and it could potentially be the most best-selling game of all time. I've said this time and time again, power doesn't matter, the games matter. Nintendo is proving this over and over and over again, and a lot of people say, oh, I just want Nintendo to do a more powerful console. I tell you guys, last time they did that, they had the GameCube. And remember, the GameCube was during the PS2 era, and what outsold the GameCube? The PS2, the weaker console. At least I think it was weaker. Correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong on that. But anyways, overall, cool stuff. Overall, guys, interesting stuff. But now that you guys have heard my thoughts on this, make sure you tell me yours in the comment section below. What do you think about the words of the devs from Twilight Princess HD back on the Wii U? And do you think Nintendo will break this record of the best-selling console of all time? I mean, man, that would be insane if they did. Leave your comments in the comment section below. And if not, on your way out, make sure you subscribe for more videos and also have that notification bell on. And if you want to support the channel in any other way, there is my Patreon and Twitter account in the pinned comment if you're interested in those. Oh, and also have this donut if you're still sticking around for me rambling. Thanks for watching, guys, and remember, stay safe, stay charged, and have a good one.